We are counting down the 10 most played songs in the entire history of R&B, a ranking shaped by chart records, radio spins, streaming phenomenon, and even civic ceremonies. From streaming era obsessions and soulful milestones to songs that became wedding soundtracks and civil rights anthems, some on this list achieved legendary status in ways you would never expect. Which track claims the ultimate replay crown? Let us begin with number 10. Miguel's Sure Thing did not need decades to claim its spot among the most played rhythm and blues songs. Released in 2010, this smooth, hypnotic track quietly rewrote the rules for what chart longevity looks like in the streaming era. While classic rhythm and blues hits once relied on endless radio spins and late-night dedications, Sure Thing became a modern phenomenon by thriving on playlists, algorithmic recommendations, and social media shares. The song's journey through the Billboard Hot Rhythm and Blues and Hip Hop Songs chart lasted an astonishing 89 weeks, a record-breaking stretch that turned heads even among industry insiders. Every time Sure Thing faded from the charts, it found new life as a flagship pick on Spotify's top rhythm and blues playlists, keeping Miguel's voice in constant circulation for a new generation. The track's mellow groove, crisp production, and clever metaphors helped it cross over from radio to streaming with ease. Producers and young artists took notice, sampling and interpolating its melody in songs that now fill TikTok feeds and late-night study sessions. Unlike the soulful anthems that dominated the airwaves for years, Miguel's hit proves that a song can rack up billions of plays through digital persistence alone. Its legacy is measured not just in spins, but in the way Sure Thing keeps showing up on playlists, in remixes, and as a blueprint for rhythm and blues streaming renaissance. With its 89-week chart run, it sets a new baseline for replay power in the digital age. Alicia Keys arrived in the early 2000s with a sound that felt both classic and brand new. Her song If I Ain't Got You became her signature, anchored by a piano line that called back to soul's roots, yet polished for the MTV generation. Released in 2003, the track soared to number 1 on the Billboard Hot R&B Hip Hop Songs chart, holding that spot for 6 straight weeks. On the Hot 100, it climbed into the top 10, a rare feat for a ballad in a time dominated by club beats and hip-hop hooks. Keys wrote and produced the song herself, pouring heartbreak and longing into every note. Its arrangement, stripped down to voice, keys, and a gentle string section, stood out on radio playlists crowded with heavy production. The song's rise was not fueled by viral trends or playlist algorithms, but by old-school airplay and word of mouth. When Alicia Keys performed If I Ain't Got You live at the Grammys, her delivery turned a roomful of industry insiders silent. That televised moment triggered a spike in radio requests and drove the single to multi-platinum status, as certified by the RIAA. The song's crossover appeal was undeniable. It played on R&B stations, pop formats, and adult contemporary radio, bridging gaps between generations. Its success proved that a soul ballad, powered by pure musicianship and emotion, could still dominate in the digital age. If I Ain't Got You stands as a blueprint for 21st century R&B, balancing tradition and innovation while racking up spins across every format. Stevie Wonder's Isn't She Lovely did not need a single release to become one of the most played songs in R&B history. In 1976, Wonder tucked the track into the heart of his double album, Songs in the Key of Life. The inspiration came straight from home, the birth of his daughter, Aisha. Wonder captured her first cries and even the sounds of her bath, weaving them into the song's opening and closing moments. That raw, joyful intimacy set it apart from anything else on the radio. Instead of chasing chart placement, Wonder kept the track as a personal statement, refusing to trim its 6-minute length for commercial radio. Still, FM stations found ways to play it, and the song's infectious harmonica solo, nearly half a minute of pure melody, became instantly recognizable. Album-oriented radio in the late 70s thrived on tracks like this, spinning them during prime hours and special dedications. Over the years, Isn't She Lovely found a second life at baby showers and family gatherings, showing up wherever new life was celebrated. Today, the song's reach stretches across generations, with more than 66 million streams on Spotify and millions more on YouTube. Wonder's choice to keep it an album cut did not hold it back. Instead, it proved that a song could become a cultural fixture through pure emotional connection and relentless FM airplay. Even without a single, Isn't She Lovely stands as a testament to how personal stories set to the right melody can echo for decades. A single guitar note, bright and clean, opens the door. Next comes the bass, walking gently up the scale. In just a few seconds, My Girl by The Temptations lays down one of the most recognizable hooks in popular music. Released at the close of 1964, the song soared to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March 1965, becoming the group's first chart topper. Behind the scenes, Smokey Robinson and Ronald White of the Miracles shaped the melody and wrote the lyrics, crafting a tune that would become a Motown signature. The magic of My Girl starts with its arrangement. That opening riff, played by Motown's legendary house band, the Funk Brothers, sets a mood of pure optimism. David Ruffin's lead vocal, warm and inviting, glides over harmonies so tight they seem effortless. Every element, from the subtle brass accents to the steady snap of the drums, is built for sing-alongs and radio play. Over the decades, My Girl has proven its staying power. More than 400 artists and acts have licensed official versions, each one drawn to the song's universal message and irresistible groove. It has found new life in movies, commercials, and countless wedding receptions, but the original remains the gold standard. While the track anchors Motown's golden era, its influence stretches far beyond, inspiring generations of musicians to chase that perfect, simple hook. My Girl stands as a reminder that sometimes the right notes in the right order can echo across decades. Al Green's voice floats in smooth as velvet, and suddenly the room feels warmer. Let's Stay Together arrived in late 1971, and by the start of 1972 had settled in for a record-breaking run, 9 straight weeks at #1 on the Billboard R&B chart. That kind of chart tenure did not just happen by accident. Producer Willie Mitchell crafted a sound at High Records that wrapped Green's falsetto in soft, organ, gentle horns, and a rhythm section that never rushed. The result was a song that felt both intimate and universal, perfect for late-night radio and Sunday morning slow dances. Radio programmers in cities from Memphis to New York could not get enough. Some recall that for months it was almost impossible to go a single hour without Let's Stay Together spinning somewhere on the dial. The opening falsetto became a favorite sample for future artists, and the song's steady groove laid the groundwork for what would become the Quiet Storm format, those after-hours radio blocks built around mood and romance. Even decades later, it is a staple on classic R&B playlists, and new generations keep discovering its warmth through streaming and film soundtracks. While it may not anchor as many wedding ceremonies as some of its peers, its unmatched 9-week reign on the R&B chart cements its status as a defining moment in Southern soul. Let's Stay Together endures because it is more than a love song. It is a masterclass in restraint, production, and the art of making every note count. A single note on the piano, rich and deliberate, sets the tone. Ray Charles recorded Georgia on My Mind in 1960, building the arrangement around a lush orchestra and a horn section that swells with every chorus. The song's roots stretch back decades, but Charles's version transformed it from a jazz standard into a national treasure. The orchestration, strings, brass, and Charles's rolling piano gave the track a cinematic sweep that went far beyond the pop charts. Radio stations gave Georgia on My Mind steady play, but its journey did not stop with commercial success. In 1979, the Georgia State Legislature officially adopted it as the state song, a rare honor for any recording. From that point on, the track became a fixture at public events, sports games, and political ceremonies across the state. Its melody echoed through stadiums and Capitol buildings, multiplying its reach far beyond typical radio spins or album sales. Charles performed the song live at countless civic occasions, each time reinforcing its place in American memory. The official status meant Georgia on My Mind was played not just by disc jockeys or wedding bands, but by marching bands, orchestras, and even school choirs. Decades later, the song remains a symbol of Georgia itself, woven into the fabric of state identity. That kind of institutional adoption has driven billions of plays, many of them outside the usual channels, making Georgia on My Mind one of the most enduring and most played R&B songs in history. A single, sweeping note from the strings in Etta James' voice fills the room. At Last was not just a song, it became a ceremony in itself. Released in 1960, the track's lush orchestration and soaring vocal transformed it into a ritual for couples everywhere. For over 15 years straight, wedding planners and surveys have named At Last the #1 choice for a first dance, according to data from Wedding Wire. The melody's slow build, paired with James' effortless phrasing, creates a moment that feels both grand and intimate, an instant classic that never leaves the playlist. The song's journey did not end at the altar. Hollywood embraced At Last as the go-to soundtrack for love stories, from period dramas to modern romantic comedies. IMDb sync logs show the track featured in dozens of films and television shows, each time reinforcing its role as the sound of romantic arrival. Even presidential history took note. When Barack and Michelle Obama danced to At Last at the 2009 inaugural ball, the song's legacy deepened for a new generation. Artists across genres have tried to capture its magic, with more than 100 documented cover versions. Yet Etta's original remains untouchable. Its blend of orchestral sweep and raw emotion is impossible to duplicate. At Last is not just one of the most played R&B songs, it is the soundtrack to countless weddings, anniversaries, and cinematic moments, earning its place as a perpetual engine of celebration and devotion. A dim studio in Sheffield, Alabama. Percy Sledge stands at the microphone, eyes closed, every word pulled straight from heartbreak. The track, When a Man Loves a Woman, was cut at Narala Sound Studio on February 17, 1966, under the guidance of Quinn Ivey and Marlon Green. The story goes that Sledge, devastated by a breakup, poured his pain into the lyrics, improvising over a slow blues progression. Calvin Lewis and Andrew Wright, his bandmates, shaped his raw ideas into what would become an R&B landmark. There is a moment just past the 2-minute mark, a crack in Sledge's voice, audible in the bridge. It is not a studio trick or a polished effect. It is the sound of a man at the edge, letting his guard down. That single, unguarded note transformed the song from a simple ballad into something unforgettable. Listeners kept coming back, drawn by the authenticity you cannot fake. The myth of a one-take session lingers, but records show the magic came from Narala, not fame, and from weeks of lived emotion, not a single pass. The song shot to #1 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the R&B chart, making history as the first chart topper recorded in the Muscle Shoals area. Its replay power only grew. Michael Bolton's 1991 cover brought it back to #1 on the Hot 100, and countless other versions followed. but it is Sledge's original cracked voice and all that anchors playlists, radio rotations, and late-night dedications to this day. The replay value is not just in the melody. It is in the vulnerability left on tape. A reminder that sometimes soul is a single note breaking under the weight of real love. A blast of horns, a driving rhythm, and Aretha Franklin's voice. Clear, commanding, impossible to ignore. In 1967, Respect hit the airwaves, but this was not just a cover of Otis Redding's original. Aretha and her Atlantic Records team tore into the arrangement, flipping the song's meaning and power. Gone was the plea for acknowledgement. In its place stood a demand, spelled out letter by letter, RESPECT. The call and response with her sisters, Carolyn and Irma, added muscle to the groove, while the punchy rhythm section locked the track in place. The session at Atlantic's New York studio didn't just produce a hit, it ignited a movement. Producer Jerry Wexler's notes show how Aretha's piano drove the arrangement, with the band matching her energy in real time. That iconic bridge, spelling out the word, was not in Redding's version. Aretha's improvisation turned the song into an anthem for anyone who had ever been overlooked or underestimated. Within weeks, Respect topped the Billboard Hot 100 and the R&B charts. But the song's reach stretched far beyond radio. Marches for civil rights and women's liberation blasted it from loudspeakers. Protest logs from the late 1960s and the 1970s list Respect as a fixture at rallies and sit-ins. Disc jockeys kept it in heavy rotation, and over 50 artists have sampled or reimagined its groove in everything from hip-hop to pop. Aretha's Respect isn't just one of the most played R&B songs. It's a declaration, a rallying cry, and a blueprint for transformation. Proof that a great song can become a force of history, echoing across generations. A haunting organ riff, a low groove, and Marvin Gaye's voice, aching and urgent, impossible to ignore. I Heard It Through the Grapevine did not just top charts in 1968. It became the benchmark for replay power in R&B. Released by Motown after months of behind-the-scenes debate, the song landed first on Gaye's album, then as a single, and radio stations could not let go. Both versions spun in heavy rotation, sometimes back-to-back, as listeners called in to hear that unmistakable falsetto one more time. The reach of Grapevine goes far beyond radio. Billboard charts tracked its initial dominance, 7 weeks at #1 on the Hot 100, but that was just the beginning. Over the decades, the song has been covered and sampled by more than 100 artists, from Creedence Clearwater Revival to Gladys Knight and the Pips, each version adding new listeners and new spins. Licensing records show it is one of the most requested tracks in film, TV, and advertising, with the 1986 California Raisins campaign alone doubling its airplay and introducing it to a new generation. Music historians have tried to quantify its impact by aggregating best of lists, and by every measure, radio spins, covers, samples, and critical rankings, I Heard It Through the Grapevine stands at the top. Luminate airplay snapshots and streaming data confirm its status as a perennial favorite, while Dave's music database places it #1 after tallying 33 separate R&B rankings. No other song on this list matches its convergence of radio dominance, cultural ubiquity, and critical esteem. For more than half a century, Grapevine has been the song that every R&B classic is measured against, a true juggernaut whose echoes are still heard everywhere music plays. Across all 10 entries, one pattern stands out. True R&B classics break every boundary, time, genre, and generation because their emotion is universal. These songs aren't just played, they're lived, echoing through weddings, protests, and daily life. Which song still moves you most? Let us know in the comments below.